So guys, let's start with understanding the loops first. Uh, when I'm talking about loop, we'll start with the for loop first. So for loop, let me have the same kind of formatting that we have for everyone. So for loop, okay. For loops, yes. Now, what are for loops? Let's have to try get an understanding of for loop in detail. So for loop is something that I could tell you by drawing some diagram here. So this is a for loop. So what it does is, it's as soon as you enter into it, it checks for a sequence. Yeah. If it is, then it executes the statement. Then it comes back to it, find the next item from the sequence and execute the statements. Now, unless and until there are no more sequence available, yeah, it will execute the loop. And once all the items in the sequence are completed, it will move out of the loop. Yeah. So a for loop in Python has the ability to iterate over the items of any sequence, such as list, tuple, or a string. So if a sequence contains an expression list, it is evaluated first, then the first item at probably zeroth index in the sequence, yeah, is assigned to the iterating variable. Next, the statements block is executed. Each item in the list is assigned to iterating var. Yeah. How it is done? So let's see by an example. So what for loop does is, I'm sorry. So what for loop does is, yeah, let's understand by taking an example. Let me have the syntax also added. So it is a block of code for iterating variable in sequence. So I have a variable. I will have a block of code as I wanted to show here how it looks like. So this is the syntax. Yes. Let me make it bold. Yes. So this is the syntax of for segment. So it gets into the iterating variable, yeah, that be list or a normal sequence, yeah, and executes this statement unless and until the iterating variables get exhausted. Yeah. So since the loop is executed for each member element in a sequence, there is no need for explicit verification of Boolean expression controlling the loop, as in while loop. So in while loop, you every time check whether the condition is executed or not. Rather, in for loop, it executes all the conditions, all the variables that are available. Yeah. So you need to remember this. Uh, Also, a sequence objects such as list, tuple, or probably those are iterables, or you can say the sequence objects that we had as a loop iterates to the collection. Any iterated object can be iterated by for the for loop. Yeah. So every object gets evaluated. Yeah. The view objects returned items, um, keys, and values methods of dictionary. Yeah. So these are also iterable. Hence, we can run for loop with these methods. Now, Python built-in range function returns an iterator. You need to understand what range is as well when you are using for loop. Yes. We'll check about the range. The syntax of range. So let me first write down what I've spoken till now. Yes. Now, another thing that we need to understand in for loop is the range. Yes, range in for loop. So this is very important concept that we need to understand because mostly for loop uses range. And the syntax of range looks like this. This is a building function in Python, wherein there you can specify the start and stop of a step. Yeah, so it looks like this. Yes. So the start is the starting value of the range. That is optional. Default is always 0. Yeah. Stop is the range goes up to stop -1. Yeah. And step is an integer value. So it enables you to helps you to understand how many jumps it has to do every time it iterates through the loop. So let's understand this further in more detail by taking some examples now. We had enough of theory on for loop, so hope you understood the theory as well before we get into the for loop and its nitty-gritties. Yeah. So let me first take some example. So let me run Python loop with strings. Let's have uh, the for loop run with strings. So this is, we have this example, loop with strings. Yeah. So a string sequence of Unicode letters, each having a positional index. Now the following example that we'll be doing is compares characters and displays if it's not a vowel, that is A, E, I, O, or U. Yeah. So what we'll do is, let me have my Zen statement. Zen statements are this. I have taken the Zen statement and have put it in one statement by putting it in triple quotes. Yeah. Now I'll loop. What is the syntax of loop is for char. So I assuming a variable in Zen. Zen is my data where I have stored the things that I have to check. Then I'll go to if. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to find if it is A, E, I, O, U, then it will not print that variable. So if char not in A, E, I, O, U, yes, then it will print, yes, char, comma, every time it will check the character and it will end equals to space. Yes. So let me first explain you what it does, what this code is doing right now. It is first taking a variable and storing the data that I want to check. Yes. Now by using for loop, I am going individual character by character in the Zen data that I have stored. Yeah. For every character, it is checking whether it is it is a vowel or not. Yeah, whether it is an A, I, O, U. Yeah. If it is not a vowel, then it prints the character. Yes. Else it will not. So if it is a in beautiful, there is A, there is E, which is an vowel, A, which is an vowel, U is vowel, I and U. So it will only print B, T, F, L. So let's run this. Let's see what happens for the entire Zen statement. So it is running. So we see here that BTFL, so it has printed all the characters from the Zen statement which are not vowel. Yeah. So this is how it executes the statement for loops into this entire flow unless and until all the characters from this particular statement is read one by cat. Yeah, pretty simple. Let's try to do it with some of the sequence. So let loop it with strings. We have done this with string. Let's loop it with tuples. So we know what tuples are. Yeah. So the Python tuple object is also an index sequence. Yeah. You need to know that. And hence we can traverse its item with a for loop. Yeah. So suppose I have numbers. I have a lot of numbers which are stored in a variable called numbers. So I am storing numbers. Let me write here. Numbers equals to that how we write tuple in a bracket. Yeah, braces where I have 34, comma 50, comma 67, comma 21, comma 78, comma 97, comma 45, comma 44, comma 80, comma 90. Okay. So I have all these numbers. I guess I have enough numbers to work on. Yeah. Now suppose I want to get the total of all these numbers by looping the entire tuple one by one. Yeah. So how would I do that? First, I have to assume a variable called total, which I'll assume to 0. Yeah. Then I'll tell the loop to go through the entire tuple. So I'll say for num, assuming a variable, as we have seen in the syntax, in numbers. Yeah. So what will happen? The num will check for all the numbers in this tuple. Yeah. And what we want to do is we'll use total equals to total plus num. Yeah. So what we are doing, we are adding each num that is being pulled from this numbers tuple here and adding it to the total, which is 0. And every time I add a number, it will keep on adding it to the existing. Yeah. I can write it this way, or I can write it. If you remember, this could be written in this way as well. Yes. And lastly, let's print the total equals to total. Yeah. I hope we'll get the total of all the numbers in the tuple. Yes, we have the total that is 535. So we have the addition of all the numbers by going through this entire loop. Yes, same way as tuple, we can also have list. Yeah, so we can use the same example of total. This time we'll try to with tuples, look with list. Yeah. So we'll try to make it square brackets. You know, list is within square brackets. We'll have we have total as 0. Yeah. We actually do not need a total. We are just trying to print the num. So what I'm trying to check is over here, I'm trying to find whether any of these numbers are divisible by 2. If the number is divisible by 2, then I will print that number. Yeah. So again, so if num mod of 2, yeah, equals to 0, yes, then I will print num. So let me pull this print now. So I am trying to print all the numbers which are totally divisible by 2. The remainder would be a 0. Yes. So that's how you calculate whether a number is divisible by a 2 or not. So let's see by reiterating through this list. So what is happening is, again, num is going one step at a time. So as we have said in the theory, it goes at the 0th number first, and then by default it is 0. You see this? Yeah. And it automatically jumps one step at a time. So from 1, 0, it will go to 1, 2, 3, 4, unless and until all the numbers in the sequence are completed. So it will check all the numbers and print out only those numbers that are divisible by 2. Let's see what is the answer. Yes. So you can see these are all the numbers which are divisible by 2. Yes. Now let's get back to a very good concept that we have talked about, that is range. Yeah, that is a built-in function that returns a range object. Yeah. So Python range object is an iterator which generates an integer with each iteration. Yeah, how it works? Let's take it by an example. Suppose, uh, let me So as you know, range starts 0 by default. So we'll start use range in how is, we'll check example of a range. Yeah. We'll just try to understand how range work first, and then we'll move to other things. Yeah. So example as a range. So if I say numbers, so if I say numbers equal to range 5. Yes. So by default, it starts at 0. It will take it till 5, comma. The iteration also by default is 1, unless and until you specify it. Yeah. So the start is 0. Step is by default 1, and range generated from 0 to 5 since it is 5. So let's see. I'll say print numbers. As I said, again, it will generate a list. See this? Range 0 to 5. Yes. So now, if I try to get a list of these numbers, then what will happen? You will see this. I'll say print list of numbers. So it should give start will be 0, 5 times. It will be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. Now let's try to use range to as per the syntax that we have for range. Yes. Let's try to use that. So how do we use it? So suppose I want to step by 1 by default. Yes. With my mouse, just let me check. Okay. So suppose I want this to step is 1 by default. Yeah. And range generated from 10 to 19. I want to do this. Yes. So what I can do is I can say numbers equal to range 10, comma 20. Yes, so it has to start at 10, yes, and finish at 20, which will be a one step lower. And if I try to print the list of numbers again, it should give me 10 to 19. Yeah, see this? Because it is the last number, it is 20. It will always give you one number below what has been specified. Now let's have some range, but with an increment of 2. Yeah, so we'll check range from 1 to 10 with an increment of 2. Yes. How do we do that? Let me use the same example and print the list of numbers. So I would have 1 to 10, I said, right? And with an increment of 2. Yes, that was the syntax of our range. If you check earlier, it is the start, yes, stop, and the step. Yeah, start is the value of the range, optional, which is default as 0. The range goes up to stop minus 1, which is if I specify 10, it would be 10 minus 1. Yeah, so it would be 9. And by default, it is 1, the step value. But right now, we have specified that step value as 2. So every time it specifies a value, it will jump by 2. So it will start with 1 as a start number. Yeah, and it will jump 2 steps, that it should give me 3, 5, 7, and 9, and that should be up till 10. So below 10, anything, any numbers. You can see this. So it has stopped at 9. So if I would have specified as 12, it would have gone till 11. See this? Yeah. So this is how range can be used in various ways to get your outputs done. Yeah. Now, once we obtain the range, we can use the for loop with it. Yes. It's very easy to do it. Now we got it in a list, right? So let me try the same thing with an for loop. Yes. We try the first one, which was a range from 0 to 5. I have a for number. Yeah. For num in range 5. Print num. Yes. And I'll say, let's see what happens. It has given me the same output, which we have seen earlier, and we have put it in a list. Yes. Now let's try it with the second example, which was from a range of 10 to 20. I'll use the for loop. I have for num in range 5. For num in range 10 to 20. Okay, we had this 10 to 20. Yes. And we have specified to print it. So let's see whether it is printing the same thing. Yes, 10 to 19, which we have earlier got as an output in a range sequence. Same way, the last example of 1 to 12 that we did using a for loop, how that could be written is this way. So I could say from num, so it 1 to 10 and jump 2 steps. So what happens is every time this for loops get into, it checks for num. Yeah, checks for num. It is in the range of 1 to 10. So it first prints 1. Yeah, then it jumps 2 steps. It comes here, prints, it jumps 2 steps, adds 3, comes here, prints 3. Yeah. So this is how it loops through the entire thing. So let me see if it gives the same output as we had earlier for 12. Yes. So it's the same output. Okay, I have 12 over here. Yeah. So start was 1, end was 12, and 2 steps. So it has ended with 11. Yeah. So the stop is 12 minus 1. That is 11. Yes, that's as per a syntax. Yeah. Hope you are understanding this entire thing which we are uh, going through, because this is a very important concept. Yeah. Now let's try to understand loops with an indexes. Yes. We'll try to understand how we can use indexes to loop through a particular sequence. Yeah. Indexes we know, that is, suppose I have a list. So I have a list which is 1, comma 2, comma 3, comma 4. Yeah. I can refer the first number, that is 1, or the second number, that is 2, by typing list 1. So 1 is the index. Yeah. So it gives me the number 2. So every in list, the index starts with 0. So 1, for 1, the number 1 index is 0. For number 2, index is 1. For number 3, index is 2. For number 4, index is 3. It may be anything. It could be 11 number. It could be 22 number, 33 or 44. Yeah. So for 11, the index is 0. For 222, the index is 1. For 333, the index is 3. So this is how the indexes comes into picture when you are trying to iterate through a sequence. We'll see this. We'll see this with an example. Suppose I have numbers. Let me have this. So I have this numbers. Yes. What could be 34, comma 54, comma 67. What else? 21, comma 28. Okay. Any random numbers. Yeah. Now for indices. Yeah. So I'll say range is equal to length of numbers. I'll explain you this, what is happening. Okay. So what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to give range a number. How many numbers are available in this particular list? So I'm telling the length of this number. So when we go to the list, we'll see what length does. Yeah. Length gives you how long is your list. So suppose I have this list. Yes, let me show you that. I have this list of numbers. Yeah. And I add more numbers. Yeah. 100, comma 300, comma 400. So there are how many numbers in this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So if I say, give me length of numbers. Yes, that's the list that we have. It should give me the count of character numbers that are available, or the count of items available in the list. So that is what is happening in our above statement. So it is giving me range and the count of numbers that are available in this list. Now let's move to a for statement. So we'll say for index in indices. So it is telling me to iterate the for loop for the number of times the indices has been specified. Yeah. So I'll say for range print index. Yeah. And the numbers. Index and the number related to that index. Yeah. So what I'll have, it's some problem with that. So what I'll do is, I trying to do is I'm trying to print indexes. Mouse is not working. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to find the index and the number. So let me print it. Let me type it here. Okay. So print index. Yeah, this will print the index number that is available that will be iterating through. So this is index, comma, numbers from the list. Yes. So it will tell me at this index, this is the number. So numbers index. This is how I can refer to an index. Yeah. So suppose, as I have shown you earlier, if I have to refer 34, it has to be numbers 0. So let me run this program. Let's see what happens. Where is my mouse? Something wrong with my mouse. So let me run this. So you see this? So index 0 is the number 34. Index 1 is the number 54. Yes. Index 3 is number 21. So this is how it keeps on iterating through the numbers. Yeah. In a sequence. Yeah. Now, unlike list, tuple, or a string, we have another sequence that is dictionaries. If we know that, we have dictionaries. Now, what dictionary does, what dictionary does is, now, however, traversing through a dictionary, it is still possible with different techniques. Okay. Now, when we are talking about dictionaries, running a simple for loop or the dictionary object traverse the keys used in it. Okay. So if I try to use a dictionary, I have the numbers and I use them like this. So this is for loop with dictionary. Yeah. So if I have this dictionary wherein I'm saying numbers equals to 10, the key is 10 and the value is the name of that alphabet number. Okay. And if I try to say for X in numbers, yeah, print X. Now, by doing this, it will only print the keys in the dictionary. So this is how it will print. It will print only the 10, 20, 30, and the 40, which is the key in a dictionary. Yes. Now, if I have to get a value of a dictionary, if I want to know what is the value of the dictionary, then there is a different method. Yeah. Once we are able to get the key, its associated value can be easily accessed either by using square brackets operator or with a get method. Yeah, we'll try to first use the square brackets. So we use the same keys, same example. we'll use the same example where we are specing x in numbers. So I have x. Now, since I have x, since I have got the key, I can now use the key to get the values. So I'll say numbers x. Yes. So it will give me the value of x. So let's see what we get as a value here. Can see this? So from the key, I can get the values in a dictionary by specifying the key. Yes. Now the items, keys, and values methods of dict class, that is dictionary class, return the view objects. Yes. So dictionary items, dict keys, or if I have to say dict values respectively, these objects are iterators and hence we can run a loop over them. So you can use these items. So if I have to put it in text, so this thing can be used. The items, brackets or keys, brackets or the values, methods. These are methods of dict class returns the view objects of it. So how do we do that? So suppose I use the same example. So I use the same example over here. I put here as, yeah, we have the same example. Now what I can do is, in spite of saying numbers, I say number dot items. It will get me the entire key and the value of that particular item. So if I say X, it will print, see this way? It has printed the key and values both. Yes? Other way, what I can do is, I can specify X and Y for this particular thing and get X and Y of this value, which is the key and values of an object. So how we can access it by saying dictionary comma y, and I'll say number dot items, and I'll say here comma provide me y as well, right? So this is another method by which you can get the key and values of a particular dictionary. Yeah. Now, if I have to get only the keys, yeah, from the keys I can get the values. Yes. Now the above way where we got the keys here, this is one of the method, or I can say give me only the keys. How I do that? So I'll print the same thing. I'll say numbers, yes, dot keys. So it will store all the keys in X and iterated one by one. Yes. So this is one of the uses, or these are the uses of for loop and the range by which you can iterate through values. Yeah. The last thing that you can do is through loop is using else statement with for loop. So how do we do that? Using else statement with for loop. Now, I have an example where for loop can iterate through 10 to 20. Yeah. Now, uh, the following program that I'm trying to do is it illustrates the combination of else statement with the for statement that searches for prime numbers from 10 to 20. So I'm searching for prime numbers. So what I want is for number in range. So we are searching for prime numbers from 10 to 20. So I'm specifying the range of 10 to 20. Yes. Then what I'm doing is for I in range 2 comma num. Yes. Here I am looping or iterating on the factors. Yes. This is a bit complicated. Just see what I'm doing. So I'm saying that if num is mod of I, that is I is the range, yeah, and that is if equals to 0, then it will jump to calculate the second factor. So the second factor is j, that is equal to num divided by I. Yes. And what it will do is it will print. That is one way of printing decimals. How I can do that? So I'll say percentage d equals to, I have to put it in double quotes, I'm sorry, equals percentage d into percentage d. I close the bracket, and what is the percentage it has to replace with? It has to replace with num, comma I, comma j. Yes, this is how it is going to replace it. And then if it finds a prime number, it will break the statement. Yeah. Else, it will specify that print num, comma, is the prime number. Yeah, if it is not divisible by any of the numbers which are specified in that loop. Yeah, and it will break. Yeah. Let's see what happens. Let's run this loop. You see here 10 equals to 2 divide 2 into 5. So it's not a prime number. 11 is a prime number because it is not divisible by anything. 12 equals to 2 into 6. So it is multiple. So 13 is a prime number. 15 is a prime number. It is not divisible by. 17 is a prime number and 19 is a prime number. Yeah. So this is how you can use for and else statement together to get some complicated calculations to run through the entire code. Yeah. Hope you liked and understood the for loop, and this would be very useful in your further programmings where it could be extensively used. Thank you so much.